play.
Video?
Yeah. Video too.
Sorry?
You're okay with video? Yeah?
Okay. You okay with English, yeah?
No, non voglio un niente.
Oh, let's do it in English first.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, tremendous win. You seem to like Masters competitions. It seems to be going well for you.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed to play here in the highest level. Today I had a great day. I really enjoyed every moment on the center court. I played against a very talented player. I mean, he's top 10, he's still very young. He has everything to be in the top 5, top 3 maybe. So yeah, today I had a great day. I tried to put more pressure on him, and yeah, I played very, very high intensity tennis, and maybe he didn't find the way to come back or do something different. But for me, it's I don't want to focusing on him, so I just try to focus on my game and for this day. So I'm just very happy to beat this guy.
Did you feel quite early on in the match that this is a game this is a match I can dominate?
Not really. I mean, as I said, I just wanted to do my best and winning the next points every time. And you know, sometimes it's just happening. I just wanted to find a way to break him a little bit. I put more pressure on him when I hit the good serves, maybe. You know, and yeah, I was a little bit lucky sometimes, and every point which is like 50-50 now, I was winning that kind of points, so maybe that was the key today.
Everybody is stunned by the score, 1-1. Were you surprised at some point that he had no reaction, really? My question is, I guess you thought you could win. Did you imagine you could win 1-1?
No, because you know, when I just came out from the stadium and I just thought to my coach, I can't believe that what just happened. It was very quick, like I don't know, like 1 hour or something like this. So it's still a new feeling for me. I never played here before in Miami. I never played on a stadium, so yeah, it's new things for me. But I'm just very happy to beat him like so easily today.
You met 4 top 10 players in your career, and you beat 3 of them. How is it possible?
That's a good one.
That's a good stat, but it's very unusual. So, what's so special with this kind of match for you?
I don't know. I mean, they are great players. I try to do my best on the court, and sometimes it's just happening. You know, I'm just I'm kind of a new guy here on the ATP tour. I try to enjoy every moment on the Masters, and of course on the small ATP tournaments as well. But this was a little bit different. It's almost the same, right? Like the Grand Slams, we have 1 day for the rest after every match. So maybe it's good for me at the moment. And yeah, I just try to play good tennis.
Do you think it's because you're new, so people are not used to your game, and that's why it surprises them a little bit?
Maybe yes, maybe no. I don't know. You have to ask them about this. Really, I just want to enjoy the moments and play my best tennis on the ATP level. So yeah, I'm just enjoying to play here.
And you come through a half-year like this, where you get a win against Carlos, and you're doing well in these big competitions.
You have to move a little bit on the side. No? Okay, thank you.
Your confidence and self-belief to be in these tournaments now must be very high after proving to yourself.
Yeah, I mean, if a player can win matches on the highest level, not just even one match and then losing in the first round, then winning 1 or maybe 2 matches, you know, the confidence is just coming week by week. So yeah, last week in India I did great, I think. And maybe I'm a little bit confident at the moment. I try to push more. I'm very hungry for the winning. So maybe that's the key. Yeah.
You see common points between this match on the match against Alcaraz. Everybody discovered you against Alcaraz in Rome. Do you see common points with this match today? Kind of same feeling?
You know, I don't know. That was very new. I mean, in Rome against Alcaraz, so that was much different for me. At the moment, I'm here in the top 100. You know, I played great matches in Shanghai as well. So I try to remember for this moments, and it's not that new at the moment. But I'm very happy to beat this guy. This is my first time here in Miami, so yeah, it's new things, but not very new. I don't know how to say, but maybe you understand me.
Do you have any goals for this year, this season?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I think everybody has a goal to. I want to be in the top 50 for sure. I mean, maybe that's a little bit closer at this time, but I want to finish in the top 30 end of the year.
And just comparing to that match against Alcaraz, how much do you think that you've grown as a player since then, and have you made any changes or adapted your game to this level?
I mean, I think I improved a little bit more than I expected in the last 6-7 months. That was a turning point in Rome against Alcaraz, maybe, and as I said, I'm a new guy here in the ATP Tour, so maybe they don't know me. Maybe I can use this advantage at the moment. But yeah, I just try to push and nothing changed.
Fabian next.
Yeah, I'm playing against him. I think tomorrow. I was supposed to play against him last week in Indian Wells, but he pulled out because of injury, I think, low back or something like this. But we are here in Miami, and it's a great opportunity for me and for him as well, because I'm not top seeded, he's not top seeded, so I'm waiting for this match. I try to do my best as I can. So yeah, I'm waiting for this match and try to enjoy every moment.
Thank you. So good.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.
The cleanest performance you've had since you were 22, what do you think was particularly good today?
Yeah, I think it was the best match I played here, and I think just the energy-wise and serve, I mean, she's an aggressive player, so I think that I need to step in on the first balls, and I think overall, yeah, it was a good match for me.
Yeah, and you said just energy-wise, I mean, how are you feeling and how close are you physically to being where you want to be?
Well, still, of course, not at my best, and after first two runs, I have a lot of muscle pain, but in that, I think I'm getting to the best form through each match, so hopefully I can play a couple more. Yeah.
Do you have a
Yeah, so you're playing Maria Sakkari next. What are your thoughts on facing her? You guys had a really close match in the WTA finals.
Well, she's for sure confident now. She played really well in Indian Wells, and I'm sure it's going to be a tough one. I think for me, important to be ready physically, to try to recover, and yeah, to do what I can tomorrow.
The glasses, are those I know Novak wears them and stuff like that. Is that like the walking out, like is it like a calming thing? Or what is or are they just fashion? I don't know.
No, not fashion, but I mean, you try to get as much tools as you can to recover, so this is one of them.
Gotcha.
Oh, the glasses are for recovery?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. They look cool, so I just thought it was fashion. They look really cool. So how can you analyze your year so far? I know unfortunately you had to pull out of Indian Wells, but you've been having some really great results. How would you judge your year so far?
Well, I think the year started really well for me, maybe not at the Grand Slam, but overall I think I played really well all the matches, and physically I was feeling good, so Was pity, of course, to miss Indian Wells, but overall I think we're on a good road, and here already I think it's a great week for me because I didn't have much preparation for this tournament, and I'm getting better and better with each match, so I think it's been a great start, so hopefully we continue like this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ready?
Inshallah, have on chauffeur. Shisha. Hi, Novak. I don't know if you saw what Vasek said last night about organising, and tennis could and should be even bigger than it already is. If only the people organising it were doing their job properly. He highlighted the balls, he highlighted playing late at night and then early in the morning and injuries. I just wondered whether you heard that, but also if you'd like to add something.
No, I haven't heard that. I actually saw Vasek just before I came here to see you guys, but I haven't seen his statement on that. But there's been a lot of discussions on the effect of the different balls and basically every week on the joints and the wrist and the shoulders and the elbows, and I think someone told me that in terms of injuries this year comparing to other years is drastically has gone up. So in terms of the balls, I absolutely agree. There should be some discussion on that. I actually spoke about that with Andrea Gaudenzi, the ATP president, and Massimo, who is the CEO, in Paris during the Paris Bercy week. And I shared my opinion and my views, and then obviously they are thinking about various different options and ways of how to regulate that and how to make it better for the players and prevent injuries. In terms of the scheduling, I think there has been a lot of criticism and a lot of players complaining about it. So I think that should be addressed in a proper way. Obviously, Davis Cup and ITF is regulated differently from ATP Tour and from Grand Slams. You have different governing bodies, different schedules, different broadcasting demands. In the end of the day, we know that the TV is the one deciding, fortunately or unfortunately, but there has to be more, I guess, thorough discussions on that as well.
Oh, you're on mute, John, I think.
Yep, I'm off mute now. How are you?
Well, I still can't hear you. 1 second.
I should be off mute, fingers crossed.
I can hear you now.
Great. How are you doing?
I'm good, mate. I'm all good, thank you. How are you doing? Nice to be on here for a little while.
Yeah, long time, long time. Of course, since we last spoke, Arsenal's championship title chase has gathered pace. In terms of probably, you had a few wobbles around December, January time, right? I think Fulham and West Ham spring to mind.
Yeah, we had a couple of defeats, and then we went on a mid-season break to Dubai, and then since then it's been win, win, win. But we've got a big one on Sunday. So. Yeah.
Oh yes, indeed. I've been listening to Gary Neville for about 9 months. First of all, saying that he tipped Arsenal to win the league, and the second thing has been, and he's been saying it for weeks and maybe even longer. They have to win. They have to win. They have to win. And I've just seen a YouTube thumbnail with a fan forum, and it says something like "Fan forum: Arsenal must beat City." And I've not watched it yet, but I'm guessing they're the words of Gary Neville, not the words of some fan or whatever. I'm guessing that. I'm going to watch it because I love some of these things that Sky have been doing in recent months with the stick to football as well. I often watch those as well as these fan forums. And one day, Jamie, maybe you'll get invited on one of these fan forums.
Maybe, who knows? Yeah, if I keep doing this stuff with you, John, might be the wrong sport, but you never know.
Yeah, no worries. All right, well, we are here, of course, to talk about Alexander Zverev against Fabian Marozsan. My suspicion, a pretty strong one, is that your stream will be ahead of mine. I've just seen the first point with Marozsan putting a volley away at the net. But knowing how far my stream is pretty much always behind, it's very... the exception, I think there's like a Tennis Channel 2 in the US, which is so far behind, I'm not even sure what year it is where they're watching, but the rest of the world is ahead of me. And I'm guessing you're watching on Sky in the UK, right?
I am, yeah. I'm watching on Sky. I'm watching on Sky Go. So I think I'm only maybe a point ahead of you.
Yeah, okay. 30 love now.
I could always pause it just to kind of try to...
Yeah, we could try. The other thing I was going to say, Jamie, I don't know if you can get a little bit closer to your laptop just so I can hear you a bit more clearly.
Let's have a look. A bit of a new setup.
You got a new setup. Don't worry, I'm here, so I can talk tennis in the meantime. I'm actually going to share a score on the screen as well. Hi, Jake, by the way. For those of you just joining, do hit the like button. And we've got 40-15 here for Marozsan, so it's fairly comfortable for the Hungarian. No, kind of the same. I don't know if you've got headphones. That might help. That might be a bit better.
Okay, a bit more forward.
Yeah, it's just the proximity to your microphone.
Okay.
I do think he can win, Jake. And Matthew there saying a very confident start as well by Fabian. I definitely think he can. I'm a bit boring on the ATP side. I think I've pretty much predicted Carlos, Sasha, Daniil, and Yannick. Of course, Daniil and Yannick are already there, all to make the semis, which is a pretty boring prediction. But I see them all playing pretty well. I see these conditions suiting them all to some extent or another. And yeah, so I am going for a Zverev win, but Marozsan is someone who's very capable of winning. Anyway, how are you doing in general? What have you been making of some of the Murray news in recent weeks and months? First of all, the retirement. Secondly, of course, the injury.
Yeah. Well, I thought he'd actually been playing really well. Actually, he'd been serving amazingly. I think he went quite well about getting broken, didn't he, at the start of the week? I've been playing really well. Probably the best he'd played, really, I think, since last summer, really, when he had that run on the grass courts on the Challenger circuit, when he won a couple of tournaments and was looking good going into Wimbledon. So, yeah, I guess it's just disappointing, but I guess there's a chance that if he doesn't play Wimbledon this year, it might almost extend his career in a funny way, right? He might opt to kind of finish next year, which might be a silver lining, I guess.
Yeah.
past
We
all the time.
we get some words pretty well, Jamie, but other words are sort of. It feels like
Let
you.
me get. I've got a microphone downstairs. Let me go and get it. I might just be.
Yeah, go get it. I've got all the time in the world. All the time in the world.
Okay. Okay.
Take your time. Take your time. Okay, let's turn my microphone on or camera on, and we'll see Jamie in a minute. Yeah, I know, Matthew. We're going to see if we can fix that audio issue. But in the meantime, we have got Zverev leveling things up pretty quickly as well. Both fairly comfortable holds for both players. In fact, we've only seen, I think, 1 point dropped on serve thus far. Matthew here is saying he's very confident. Or very confident start by Marozsan. So I thought you were saying a very confident for Marozsan. Please do hit the like button, by the way. And if you are new to the channel, do hit subscribe. We're hoping maybe by the end of the month we can hit 7K subscribers. That would be pretty cool. We were only about, I think, 80 away last time I checked. So, yeah. A nice little drop shot there from Marozsan. Marozsan, by the way, was asked a day or two ago about why he has such an impressive record against the top players. Of course, there is the surprise factor, but it's also the ceiling factor in that his ceiling is very high. And I think that's what you need. If you're just very good and you're top 20, top 30, top 40, as soon as you run into Sinner, Alcaraz, Medvedev, Zverev, and maybe even 1 or 2 others in the top 10, you're going to lose. If, however, you're 50 or 100 in the world, but your ceiling is insane, all that forehand was pretty insane, by the way, insanely not accurate from Marozsan. So it's 15 all. Then you've got a chance, let's say that. Yeah, that's an interesting point there, Jake. Jake, commiserations regarding Wales's penalty shootout heartache against the Poles. Damien, of course, was on the other side of that, so he's both happy and relieved, I believe. Exchanging backhands right now. Now it's a slice, though, from Marozsan into the net. We've got a shadow on the court, which is slightly annoying viewing. I don't know if the players find it annoying as well. There were various shadows across the tour. Springs to mind Halle and Madrid. I think they're the ones that probably get most deserved prominence. 15:30. Second serve as well here for Zverev to look at. So a chink of light, albeit pretty early on in this encounter. Backhand return from Zverev. Now it's on the forehand of Zverev. They're exchanging forehands right now. Zverev, has he gone long with that? You know he hasn't. He must have really painted the line there, and he forced the error from the Hungarian. So, 15:40, 2 break points already. Yeah, to be fair, Matthew, that's a very similar analogy to the one that... Analogy or metaphor? I never quite know which one. That Damien gave. Good serve down the tee. Saves one of the break points for Marozsan. Did you create a lot, though, Jake? I am asking that as a genuine question rather than somebody who's trying to poke or prompt. Yeah, that is a nice forehand, Jake. Only thing I will say is it was there to be punished, if you like, the short ball from Zverev. But still, 93 miles an hour, that winner speed. Now we have another break point, though, for Alexander Zverev. And we have another breakpoint saved by Fabian Marozsan. When I saw the match against Carlos in Rome, I must say, as surprising as the result was, and as stunning as the performance was, there was a thought that I don't know if he can transfer this to other surfaces. But boy, is he not exactly proving my theory wrong, because it wasn't something I was stuck to. Although that's going to be an easy put away there for Zverev, so he's got a 4th break point. But he certainly resoundingly answered the question. Let's say that. I agree. Probably the de Minaur one is the one that stands out more than any other in this tournament, or this year anyway. Just because I think there was some, when he beats Rune 1-1, I know that Rune was having some physical issues in that particular encounter. Hey, Jamie.
Can you hear me okay, John?
I can. And by the way, when did you get your microphone?
Oh, I can't hear you now.
Oh, okay, don't worry. Well, I think we could...
I think it's my end.
Yeah, just do something your end and hopefully it'll fix itself. Can you hit 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3? By the way, Zverev has broken to lead 2-1. So when you get the sort of warm favorite breaking that early, it doesn't necessarily bode well for a classic encounter. But we'll see. We'll see. One thing I noticed with Zverev against Eubanks a few days ago, I think it was probably 2 rounds ago, Eubanks was actually having maybe quite a bit is a bit of an exaggeration, but was having some occasional success on the Zverev serve, which is obviously no mean feat, bearing in mind Sasha's serve is one of the best. Is it the best serve on tour? Certainly in that region anyway, in that discussion. But he was having a lot of success with the blocked return, the sort of chop and chase, not quite Saber-like, but yeah, was having a lot of success with that. Bringing actually short balls in, and Zverev having to pick it up close to the net with his lengthy beanpole frame. A was struggling to do so, and B was also struggling to win the points in that manner. And I think Eubanks 1 or 2 breaks as a result. Talking of serve quality, it looks like from this tournament at least, Zverev is top of the tree with serve quality at number 1. Interestingly, Sinner at 4 and Alcaraz at 5. Dimitrov is in number 2 spot, by the way. And of course, Alcaraz will be trying to deal with that serve this evening. And backhand quality as well, Zverev tops that list too. So that's 2 pretty important metrics in tennis where Zverev in this tournament at least is coming out on top. I think I can hear you, by the way, Jamie. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you. Yeah, perfect. Is that any better?
Great. Yeah, it is. Really good. When did you get your microphone?
I got the mic a few months ago, I think, just before Christmas, but I've had to dust it off because I haven't used it for a little while.
Oh, great. It makes a huge difference, Jamie. Honestly, you sound amazing.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, that's good.
I mean, maybe the words coming out your mouth don't sound great.
Can't do anything about that, unfortunately.
But the audio is just, night and day. That's great. I didn't know you had a mic. Did you ever get round to starting the podcast that you were threatening to do?
So we did a few, yeah, but it hasn't really we've not really kind of got going with it. So we've got a channel set up, but it's very much more of a kind of concept as opposed to very much in its infancy at the moment. Yeah.
What is the concept, if you want to just sort of mention it at least?
So the channel was called COYR, which stands for Come On You Reds. So it was basically, my friend is a Nottingham Forest fan. We were kind of going to do I talk about Arsenal, he talks about Forest, and then we also talk about sort of general football.
Okay.
But it's just gone off the boil a bit, and I think we were sort of aiming for too niche a market. Someone who's kind of got a keen interest in both Arsenal and Forest.
Yeah,
not that common. But
I mean, really, you've got 2 matches a year. Of course, there might be a cup clash or so, but
exactly, yeah. What have I missed so far in this one, John? So Zverev's a breakup.
Yeah, Zverev's a breakup. Also, just having a quick look at his serve, which I know is a much talked about thing in the past, but basically Fabian has yet to, I think, even garner a point until now on Sasha's serve, which doesn't bode well when you're already a break down. Plus, Fabian was hanging on. I think he had to save 4 break points. Plus, Zverev's backhand is looking pretty gravy. And then finally, when you get a warm favourite, I wouldn't go as far as saying hot favourite because Marozsan has had some pretty impressive results over the last 8 or 9 months. But when you get the warm favourite, get the early break, it doesn't bode well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's true. And I guess, yeah, I would agree with what you're saying. He's a warm favourite, I guess, because they've never played before either. I don't think this is their first meeting. And I heard you talking about Marozsan's record against top 10 players as well, which is really impressive.
Yeah,
exactly.
There's
Yeah,
the
I'm
unknown
on
factor.
15.
Yeah, I've just got to 40-15, so I think I'm about 30 seconds behind you.
Yeah, I was just touching on Murray. I don't know if you heard, John. I was just saying it might actually, I guess, it might work to kind of extend his career in some ways, right? If he misses Wimbledon this year, he might potentially see if he can make it next year.
Yeah, I think in terms of weeks and months on tour, you might be right. You know, if he misses Wimbledon, my very, very, very limited understanding of what's been going on sort of since the weekend when he picked up the injury, is that Wimbledon still seems to be very much within a doable time frame. Maybe even as early as Surbiton as well, but probably, you know, if we're all guessing at the moment, but we're kind of looking at grass court season return. But you're right, there's no guarantees. I mean, a knee ligament, I think it is, issue, which, you know, can be, you know, best part of a year. But from my understanding, is it's going to be a lot less than that, and therefore Wimbledon does come into the question. But as you say, you might be right. You might be right. If I think you're definitely right. If he misses Wimbledon through injury, even if it's just a case of barely playing for the following 12 months and just picking up the odd wild card here and there and getting a wild card for Wimbledon the following year, that is that extending your career? You're just waiting for Wimbledon 2025 then, right?
Yeah, exactly. Extending it in terms of weeks, but not necessarily in terms of competition. Such a shame because he was playing as well as
that backhand winner. Have you just seen that? Yeah.
So right
I'm now about. Did you pause your screen, by the way?
I paused it a bit to try and sync us up.
Yeah, I'm now about 5 seconds ahead of you, actually.
Okay.
So, yeah, that backhand winner was sensational.
Lovely. So how did your match go today on carpet, John? So you're, I guess we could call you an all-court player now these days.
You certainly can, yeah, because I'm doing okay on the carpet. Bearing in mind, I'm not a big server. So carpet has been likened to grass in that, you know, it's quicker, it aids serving. I say it aids serving. It's not necessarily aiding big servers. Even a slow server like me, it can give you a little bit more pace. Certainly, it favors slicing and dicing as well, much like the grass as well. Low bounces sometimes, probably even lower, in my limited opinion, than grass. The bounces are even lower. Sometimes you find yourself standing a bit too far back in that you've got to sort of reach down to get some of those, whereas on clay, you'd have both the time and also the bounce to stand as far back as you want. Another drop shot there from Marozsan. I say another one that's kind of his forte for 40-15. So yeah, that was that. And it's a guy I've got like a 97-3 record against, and that is obviously completely invented in terms of numbers, but it gives you a rough idea in terms of percentage. I will say this though, his 3 wins all came last year, and we're now into our 3rd year of playing. So the gap has closed, and today was 7-5. I'll read my scores first. 7-5, 4-5. We didn't finish because we just had to get off the court, basically. But yeah, I still think I would have won that in straight sets, if I'm honest. But it's close, as you can tell. Last week we played as well, 7-6, 6-3, I think it was last week. So you can tell the sets are close. but when it comes down to it, I've got it still.
You've got the know-how, that winning mentality, right? It's almost a bit like Rafa at Roland Garros, right? He's about 97-3, I think, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he's even better. I think is it 102
Been
and
100.
3 or 105 and 3, something like that. I think it's 3 losses. Can you name his 3 losses?
Yes, I can. That's pretty easy, I think. So we've
Pretty
got
easy.
Sodling 2009.
Yeah.
Djokovic most recently, right, in 2021.
Yeah.
And then Djokovic in I'm gonna say 2016.
It's the other one, 2015.
2015. Okay.
Yeah.
I think
2016.
2016 he pulled out.
Yeah, exactly. Which is, and who's to say he might well have, because he was still in the doldrums at that point in terms of his form, because it wasn't until Australian Open 2017. So there's a good chance he might have lost in 2016. Injury, funnily enough, has maybe enhanced that. It might not have done. He could have won the French Open in 2016 and other years as well. But maybe injury has enhanced his record, because he didn't play the French Open, I think, until 2005 when he won it. And yet he was already playing slams elsewhere on the tour. But because he didn't play it in 04 through injury, that helps, if you like, because he probably doesn't win it in 04. Maybe he doesn't win it in 23 as well last year, bearing in mind where he was at physically. So the years he's injured have been in goodish moments, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It'd just be so nice to see him this year, wouldn't it, on the clay at Roland Garros, if it's going to be for the final time. Whether or not he plays the Olympics or not, I don't know. But yeah, it would just be. What did you think about him pulling out of kind of traveling out to America and kind of pulling out and stuff like that? Because I think he was getting a bit of stick from a few quarters, I think, saying that, kind of he'd traveled out there giving people false hope. But I don't know. I didn't really I think it was fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you think you've got a chance. You feel as though Indian Wells is probably the best court conditions for you on the planet, probably in terms of hard court. Sorry, of course, clay courts aside. Indian Wells is probably, slow hard is pretty good for him. We saw how well he did there in 2022 until injury issues came up as well. No, I don't have listen, you try to be as professional as you can, and therefore once you realize it's just not happening. But he's not going out, he's not traveling there and spending all that time there just to play the Netflix Sam. He hoped that he'd be able to play. And he hopes to play Monte Carlo. You don't want to pull out too early. You pull out at the time when you realize it's not possible. I think the Netflix Slam probably, I felt he was very glum around that time, and there were not positive vibes. My understanding is he hoped to play a practice set either before the Netflix Slam or following that exhibition. But by the next 48 hours, he still wasn't serving. And that's the issue. It's been the issue. Lovely passing shot there from Marozsan. So at 30 all. That's been the issue for him pretty much since the issue flared up in January 2023 in the Australian Open. The issue has been from start to finish until now, serving. There are movement issues too, and there were movement issues in the April, May of last year. But ultimately, he just can't serve. Now, I know there was the Brisbane thing, and that was probably the only time in probably the injury period where he has actually looked very good and been able to serve and play well and move well and felt good. But that's 3 matches, I guess, in almost 18 months now, or certainly 15, 16 months. And his serving, by the way, and of course it's a hip injury, but of course it's all down the side of your body, all down to the hip and back and everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. Zverev coming up with an ace there at 30 all.
Yeah. Zverev's first serve percentage is just insane. I mean, against Alcaraz in Australia, it was like well over 80%, and there's just not much you can do when he's got a good first serve like that, and he's getting 80, 90%. I think he in the top 50, he has the top. I think he's in the top 2 for first serve percentage, getting them in, which, bearing in mind how big it is even more dangerous.
Absolutely. I guess that's doubly important for Zverev, right? Because his second serve is a bit of a kind of weakness that opponents can attack, and he can also, if he's not playing well, I guess, be had a lot of issues with double faults as well throughout his career, particularly when he's not been at the top of his game.
Yeah.
Marozsan has got him here at deuce. I think this is the first game where Marozsan's actually got any points on the Zverev serve, and he's taken him to deuce.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, he just put a backhand on.
Estoril, is it next week for?
Yeah, for talking tennis. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Second
Fifth
year in a
slam.
row.
Fifth slam.
The fifth slam. Yeah.
Yeah, very much looking forward to that. It is probably my favorite event that I've been to. There's pros and cons to them all, but it's possibly the one I enjoyed the most.
And of course, you were in Rio and Buenos Aires earlier in the year.
Yes, I was. Yeah. Yeah. Back in sunny Germany. Now, lovely volley there at the net for Marozsan, so he's got a break point. Go on, what were you going to say?
Just on Estoril, yeah, I can imagine it's the lovely part of the world, isn't it? And
have you? I know you've been to Lisbon a couple of times, but have you been out just outside, like along the coast there?
I've been to. I'm not sure. I think it might be. I've been to Sintra before, but I think that might be the other way.
I think it is. Sintra on the coast, is it?
It's on the coast. Yeah.
Is that the one where there's the famous tower, or is that somewhere else?
Yeah. There's quite a few famous like palaces and stuff to see there. It's
okay.
Yeah, quite impressive. But it's the other way. I think Estoril and Cascais and that are towards the other side of Lisbon.
Yes, I think I'm trying to get my geography right. Oh, you've seen something. I've got an advantage here for Marozsan, break point. 25 minutes in. I'm just going to talk us through this particular point. We've got Zverev down the tee. Forehand return is a bit cumbersome, but they're into the rally right now. We're now on the forehand of Sasha. Forehand of each player, although Sasha's changing up and it's a forehand winner down the line. Looks like he just clipped the line there as well. Marozsan is really attacking that second serve, by the way.
Yeah. Looking confident, isn't he? What a rise up through the ranks as well, by the way, because I didn't actually see when he beat Alcaraz last year. I didn't actually see it live, but I watched the highlights, and the highlight reel was literally insane. Probably the best highlight reel maybe I've ever seen. It was just incredible. Some of the shots that he was hitting against Alcaraz and some of the rallies he was coming out on top of. So I was really, really kind of hopeful that it wasn't just a flash in the pan, and he was able to build on it. And I mean, he's in the top 40, I think now, at least following this week. So he really is building on it.
Oh, has he missed that one? I think he has.
He's just missed it.
And that's not quite an open goal, but it's very near as damn it. I mean, he should be putting that away. Even if he goes into the body as Zverev, he probably wins the point there.
Not quite as bad as Ryan Giggs against Arsenal, but it was still quite a bit bad.
I remember that one. That's the same game as the boot incident.
Yeah.
I've just watched it. I feel as though I've watched it because I've got to the point where I think the rest is going to be boring. But I've just watched the Beckham documentary.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, because I've just finished it. I'd watched it and then I've just finished the second half. What have you?
How many episodes are there? 6 or 8?
4. Only 4, I think.
4. Okay, so maybe I've watched 3 then. I don't know. I've watched like half or 2/3 or something like that. And I've got to basically the bit. I think when he's done with Madrid and he's now going to the US, which is basically the rest. I'm not interested in. So I don't think.
Yeah. It's not that great after that. Obviously, it then talks a bit about his short spells at Milan and PSG and stuff, and then
okay, right, yeah. The end of
a little bit about the tiniest bit about the alleged affairs.
But I think I've already had that, or maybe I have missed that. Maybe. What about the 06 World Cup? Has that been done? Did I watch? I don't remember the 06 World Cup, so maybe I haven't seen that.
I don't know if they even mentioned that. Well,
the 06 World Cup is his last tournament really with England.
Yeah,
you're right. Yeah. I'm past that. He's already going. I'm already in sort of. I think when did he leave Madrid?
2007, I think.
2007. Yeah, it was 2007. Yeah, summer of 2007. Yeah, so I'm past that. He's just basically on his way to the US. So
Right.
that's funny. Unless they don't row back, because I've got them qualifying for, but they've also must have skipped over his sort of foot injury he had. Remember all that drama in the build up to 2002?
Oh, he was the original kind of metatarsal, wasn't he?
He was. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Gary
first
Neville
person
copied
on
him.
earth that ever had a metatarsal, and then we realised we all had one.
Gary Neville did his also in a European tie, but unfortunately for Gary, he did it like 4 weeks later. So he ended up missing the World Cup. And probably Beckham should have missed it too, to be honest.
Right. Okay. That's why we had Danny Mills then against Brazil, right? Which wasn't a good sight.
Danny Mills. God, dear me. Jake here, highlight drop shot king indeed.
Yeah.
I mean, probably. I can see the shot that he's just in as well. Yeah. That's probably the easiest drop shot, by the way, to do. And I saw a really good question of the day because it was referring to Marozsan's backhand drop shot and comparing it to Alcaraz's forehand drop shot. But because probably technically the backhand one is even more difficult to pull off. There's the element of surprise is there with both. But with the forehand, it just, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm strong on the forehand. It just feels like and then you just sort of hold it back and you do your drop shot. Whereas, I don't know, feels much more difficult technically on the backhand side. So a lot of people were praising Marozsan's backhand drop shot even more than Carlos's forehand.
It feels a bit easier to disguise maybe on the forehand. Would you
exactly, because you're kind of going on the forehand, especially if you're Carlos, and then you just take everyone by surprise, and there you go.
Yeah. Whereas I think with myself, I kind of a lot of the time on the backhand, I tend to slice anyway, so it's kind of going to look a bit similar to a drop shot.
How's the paddle going?
Paddle's going well, John. Yeah, after you do paddle's going very well. I know that you're kind of. I think you said some disparaging remarks about the sport, but
no, I haven't. No, is it? You know, I played some beach tennis in Rio, by the way, and beach tennis is probably a bit closer to either paddle or pickleball than it is to tennis itself. I mean, the ball obviously doesn't touch the ground. In paddle, it does touch the ground, though, right?
It does touch the ground. Yeah. So it's the same as tennis in terms of you get one bounce, but then you can take it after it hits the back wall as well. So it bounces, hits the back wall, and then you can almost hit it on the volley off the wall. Yeah. It's good fun. It is easier than tennis for sure, but it's.
And how does it? Do you know much about pickleball? How does it differ from pickleball?
Well, I've never played pickleball before, but I've seen it. So I mean, pickleball's just. It's
Are
not
there
in
walls?
a
You get walls in pickleball.
No, it's not in a cage like paddle is. So it's open. It's an open court, and I think it's even smaller than paddle. It looks tiny.
Okay.
So, mate, yeah.
But no, I mean,
in New York, a lot when I was there in September, a lot of people playing pickleball.
Ah, right. Yes, I've heard about this in the US. There's a lot of sort of tennis, pickleball fighting. I mean, I think in Europe we've heard about it, all about it, but we don't really feel it in the same way the Americans are feeling it. Regarding paddle, no, I mean, really, I guess in my 3.5 years living in Spain, I should have at least played it once because it's probably the biggest racket sport in Spain. I mean, I know tennis is, at least participation wise, people are playing people are playing paddle left, right, and center.
Yeah, people have been playing it in Spain for. I think I first played it in Spain about 10 years ago, and back then there was only there was one court in London near Shoreditch. So there was one place that did paddle, and that was 10 years ago. And I think now it's gone up from about 200 courts to about 800, maybe something like that in the UK.
Okay, yeah,
it's really taken on the last few years.
And of course, for people at your age, that's quite good because obviously, you know, tennis is done for you now, and you're not a mover anymore. I mean, basically, you and Del Potro in terms of movement have been compared to each other for sure. So paddle is more your sort of thing now.
Absolutely, yeah. But it is still good for my my tennis game still. And when eventually you do summon up the courage to play me, John, because I know that's something that you're massively avoiding.
You make it sound like I think there was back in the 90s, which was probably a bit before your time. It was Lennox Lewis and Riddick Bowe. Riddick Bowe was the other heavyweight, and Riddick Bowe famously dumped his belt in the trash can because basically just kept avoiding fighting Lennox Lewis, and eventually they stripped him of his title. So there was a famous image of him across the British newspapers of dumping his belt in the trash can.
So yeah, Zverev's looking fairly comfortable. Marozsan's playing well though. He's definitely in the match now, you would say.
Yeah, and there was a danger at 3-1 or 2-1 when Zverev got that break of it sort of drifting away from him, even getting worse. But actually, he's been threatening, and that if he doesn't win this set or even the match, there was that one where basically Zverev was a lame duck and really should win that point. And I think that was at deuce on Zverev's serve. So that could have been very different.
Yeah, he's just come through quite a long rally there. I don't know if you saw that.
I'm watching it now, and he's got it 30-all, right?
Yeah, I just.
Any tennis stories sort of since the Australian Open that have caught your eye? We obviously touched on Murray and the retirement thing.
Yeah. I guess
Rafa's
I was going to
injury.
mention. I guess it's probably been talked about quite a bit, hasn't it? But no great surprise that Breakpoint was coming to an end.
That's a good one, actually. Honestly, it hasn't. You know what? It hasn't been spoken about. It's been tweeted about a bit, probably but it was. Yeah. Oh, did you watch both series?
I watched both series. The only one that I haven't watched is the last episode of the current one. I think since hearing that it's been discontinued, it's kind of I've sort of lost any motivation to watch the final one. But I mean, I didn't kind of massively enjoy it anyway. To be honest, it was almost a kind of a thing of, I probably should be watching this, because in case there's anything interesting that comes out. But it wasn't very enjoyable. It could have been so much better, I think. And
absolutely.
I wasn't. Yeah, and I wasn't. And I think the Zverev stuff, right, quite relevant.
Yes,
I guess.
exactly.
Now, I guess that was the final straw, right?
Just what on earth were they thinking? I'll come back to you in about 30 seconds. I'll stay on the screen, but I'm going to put myself on mute because I want to listen to an important voice message. It's nothing like panicky. It's not like from a close relative or something, and I'm worried about what it is. But yeah, I'll be back to you in a second.
No worries. Zverev holds there. You just see a shot of the Hard Rock Stadium. That's 5-3 to Zverev. Marozsan serving. Oh, and just trickles over the net there. Marozsan's half volley. So it's love 15. Good aggressive return there from Zverev. By the way, looking at the first serve percentages, Marozsan's actually a lot higher today so far, 81% to 64, which is interesting. And I guess the Marozsan posting the kind of numbers that you would expect to see from Zverev. It's not really impacting the scoreline at the moment, though, and Marozsan's at love 30 here, so Zverev's definitely got a bit of a sniff on the Hungarian serve. Second serve now as well for Zverev to look at.
Okay, back now.
Back.
Yeah, Zverev is honing in on this set as I see, although he's gone the long way there. That was a bit of a get out of jail thing there for Marozsan, with Zverev electing to put the forehand there, because that was about the only place where Marozsan could get out of jail, really.
Yeah. Should have been love 40.
Yeah, should have been. I'm not sure about Marozsan's serve. In terms of how strong it is, everything else is there.
Posting good numbers though. Is it 77% in terms of percentage so far?
Okay.
But yeah, it's nice to see a player kind of just, how would you put it? I guess almost burst onto the scene, right, of that kind of victory out of nowhere.
Yeah,
we had it last year as well with the Brazilian guy that beat
Sabot beating Medvedev.
Sabot as well. Yeah, exactly.
I see John Bon Jovi in the crowd.
No.
Obviously, he thinks Zverev has given tennis a bad name. Marozsan, of course, does play tennis like he's living on a prayer.
Oh, wish I knew some more. Some more. I think you've taken the only two that I know, John.
There's always as well. It's a big one of theirs. Anyway, I've got a set point here, 30-40 on the Marozsan serve. Chains obviously all hanging out. Backhand return is going to be a second serve, I believe. Yes, it is for Zverev to look at here, as he has a set point, and it's a double fault.
Yeah.
Just talking about his serve. So Zverev indeed does seal the first set, 6 games to 3. Regarding break point, I mean, honestly, it started badly and it got worse. I actually haven't watched the second season just because of how bad the first one was.
Yeah.
Primarily, it seemed to have been put together by people who had no idea about tennis. And you can get away with that, but only for so long, you know. I can highlight one in particular thing that for me is just like unforgivable, which was that they forgot the US Open final, the men's singles final. They would hone in on a player, which is fine. And they did, I think each episode was honing in on 2 or 4 players, something like that, wasn't it? From both sides of the tour. And I get that, but they didn't neglect to mention and say what happened in matches elsewhere. If you remember, I remember Rafa in Paris, despite him not being one of the players they focused on, was still there. That was a theme throughout. Of course, the Felix thing was highlighted. I don't even know if they were focusing on Felix in that particular episode, but they did mention the whole Felix, Rafa, Tony.
That was probably the best episode, actually. That one I remember quite.
But I'm not even sure if Felix was actually in it. It was just such a strong narrative that they decided to hone in on it. Anyway, but that's by the by. But we still know, I know, because I'm watching it and I'm thinking, okay, well, Rafa's now in the semi-final. He had the Zverev injury and Rafa winning it. And obviously, Iga on her tear, if you like, throughout that part of the year where I think she was like 35 or so matches unbeaten. That was still mentioned. You have to mention these things. You can't just because I know you're focusing on Taylor Fritz or Maria Sakkari, you don't forget that in Paolo Badosa, I remember as well in one episode, you don't just ignore the rest of the tennis tour, and that's right. But they did in the US Open final. I remember they had Tiafoe congratulating, who was the highlight of this episode. It was Tiafoe congratulating Carlos and if you watched that, you would think perhaps if you had no idea about tennis, which I know it was focused on people a bit like that, a bit more than you and I, you would think, oh, maybe that was the final. Maybe they mentioned the semi-final, but maybe you misheard it because they just finished. So on the other side, you had Casper Ruud beating Khachanov in the semi-final, and then Casper Ruud, having a really good chance against Alcaraz. He was a couple of points away from winning the third set, I think it was, which would have given him a 2-1 lead in the final. And obviously Alcaraz ends up winning his first Grand Slam and putting the cherry on the cake, so to speak, or the icing on the cake. But they just neglected that. And I thought, oh, well, maybe that's going to be the beginning of the next episode. No, beginning of the next episode was, I think, Sabalenka and the build up to the WTA Tour finals. And I was thinking, wow, that's just nuts.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they did. I think they did something similar as well. This time with, I can't remember which tournament it was, but they showed between 2 players who they were featuring as well. I think they showed a semi-final between Sakkari and Pegula, I think, towards at the start of last year, and they showed the semi-final, and then there was no mention of the final.
Oh, really? Okay.
Exact same thing. Yeah. And also I was thinking, did they even mention? They might have mentioned this, but I can't remember off the top of my head. Did they even because they covered 2022, didn't they? So did they even mention that Roger Federer retired that year?
I don't think they did.
I think they did. Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember how much they did. They did. I think Rafa winning the Australian Open did, because if they didn't, that would have been on my radar, because they focused in on that tournament, because I think they looked at. Oh, and they also did Kyrgios twice. I also, of course, I appeared on it.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
And they showed, let's say, Kyrgios in a very favourable light around that episode at Wimbledon in particular,
Yeah.
where they sort of showed it as though everyone was hounding him, and yet they were ignoring the fact that we were responding to Nick hounding everyone else, and then him justifying it because he earns hundreds of thousands of dollars, whereas the umpires don't. Anyway, yeah, it was just flawed from start to finish, and I really don't think it would have taken a lot to have improved it. I guess one of the things that they did was they honed in on these players, and therefore it was not covering the tour in the same way. But in a way, I get that. I understand that they want to, sort of see what's going on and show everyone a little bit different stuff rather than just do a year review, which, could be just done by Sky in a couple of hours, if you like. But if I look at the cost of production of the Federer and Nadal 2008 final documentary, which was obviously minuscule in compared to the millions that Netflix would have been able to throw at this, that Nadal one was brilliant, because you could see, if you know the documentary I mean, you see in black and white when they're going through the draw, and there's narratives building with the two players and what's been going on, and then they go back to when they first played each other, or how they played each other in the French Open just about 3 weeks before, and then they go back to the present. But it's all knitted together really nicely, and you can see them plowing through the draw, and they've even got and it's really quite low budget, but it's just great. And there'll be flashbacks to when Federer was a kid, then they come back to the present, then there'll be a flashback to Nadal as a kid and him famously saying that he dreams of winning Wimbledon, and so on and so forth, and they get all the key protagonists, and obviously it's all building up to the coup de grace, which the final it was itself, and that was the main part of the documentary. But they weave it together really nicely, and I think it can also appeal to people that have never watched a tennis match in their life.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing as well. Who was it even? Who was breaking point? Who was breakpoints or even aimed at? Really, it was kind of because it all started off with explaining the scoring system and stuff like that, didn't it, at the start?
Yeah,
really, I guess, kind of supposedly aimed people didn't really know much about tennis, but as it went on, it was just like the only people who it was kind of going to be, the only people's attention that was going to get held would have been people who had a massive interest in tennis, and even us, it was barely holding our attention.
Yeah.
Really poor production.
I mean, I don't mind that sort of explaining the scoring system and stuff, but I mean, the problem is they were also relying on a lot of people that are organizing the tour, if you like, or part of the tour, the fabric of the tour. And let me tell you, as somebody who has, not as a player, but on the other side of the fence, which I think is probably a lot worse than the players' side, trust me, despite Casper Ruud's protestations, as somebody who's seen just how bad tennis organization is from top to bottom, or particularly bottom, let's say, you can also see why and how this documentary. Honestly, if you just had a couple of people that watch a lot of tennis involved in this documentary, I think it could have been a lot better. And I don't mean, I wouldn't have neglected I'm saying we, I mean, or me, because I'm thinking of myself here. I would have understood if you said to me, look, our remit is to try and get new people into the sport. We're going to follow these players, blah, blah, blah. But as soon as they mentioned Sasha Zverev, I'd have said, not sure if that's a good idea because of X, Y, Z. As soon as they said, we're going to do Kyrgios, I go, yep, good idea. As soon as they're going to do Kyrgios twice, I'd be like, not sure. But also just making sure that I'd notice things like, hang on a second, you're just showing at the wrong score here. You're showing somebody serving on the deuce court, and yet we're supposed to believe it's advantage right now, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, missing finals of tournaments and other big things, Roger Federer's retirement, for example.
And I think the Sabalenka Rybakina Australian Open final last year, they did mention that, but they made it look like it was an absolute. They made it just look like it was an awful match. They should show double faults and errors, and that was it. Yeah.
Oh wow! But of course, it was winner for law. Yeah.
Regarded as one of the best matches for a long time, isn't it?
In fact, I'm glad you mentioned it because it made, for my matches of the year, it actually came in at number 1.
Wow.
I say it came in at number 1. That sounds like it was done through a democratic process. I just chose it as number 1.
Yeah, you should really send these things out amongst the talk.
Yeah, but then you well, they do. So there was a bit of a democracy, if you like, involved. There was once we got the democracy was there to the final 7 on each side. So we did 7. I'm just watching the tennis right now.
Me too. Break point, wasn't it?
But he saved it. But it was close. There was one volley that was coming at him pretty hard, and therefore he had to, just get his racket on it and hope it wasn't going to land out. But it came very close to landing out.
And I thought Zverev was going to play a similar backhand pass. Yeah.
So what I did was, let's say we did a Spaces chat with a few different people, and that whittled down some of the options from the ridiculous to the possibles. Then there was a few Twitter polls and a few things going on as well in the WhatsApp group as well. So there was a lot of democracy going on until the final 7 on both sides. But now we've got the final 7. I went into full-on dictator mode, and I went, okay, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And so there weren't too many controversies in there, I don't think. I think probably the 1 and 2, once the 7 were done democratically. I remember doing a Twitter poll, for example, between 3 matches, and I think the top 1 from those 3 was like included. So there was a bit of debate around 3 particular matches on the ATP Tour. So I put that on Twitter, and whichever one came out on top comes in. And they were kind of all, there were 3 matches of a similar kind. I think they were all Masters 1000s. They may have all been Masters 1000 finals, if you like. So they were kind of similar, if you like. So they could go into one category. And that was where Holger Rune losing in the final to Rublev in Monte Carlo got the most votes. But the problem with making it just everything democratic, you just get people who have their favorite player and just vote on that. When I do the polls for the matches, by the way, like Zverev, Marozsan, I think there's a poll on YouTube right now for this. People just vote for the players that they like. I might like Marozsan, for example, but I think Zverev is going to win. But people can't get round that,
Yeah.
I guarantee you, if Rafa was playing a first round match in Monte Carlo against Marozsan, for example, probably Marozsan would actually be the favorite. But if you put a YouTube poll on and we were doing a live comms, it'd be like 95% Rafa.
Yeah. That's why I think on the tennis podcast, when they do polls, they try to circumvent that, don't they, by saying head, not heart. But I don't think it works.
No, that's right.
People don't read that.
That's why, in a way, you can not completely circumvent, but you can do things like those 3 matches. At least I could go like, these are your 3 matches to choose from, and that's not going to destroy, because all 3 were very viable. I do think there was a lot of Andrei Rublev fans that were very keen because he's got a big following, especially it seems on tennis Twitter. On serve here, by the way, 1-1. I will obviously interrupt if anything sensational happens, but that was pretty sensational. That forehand winner, yeah. From Fabian. So anyway, 1 and 2 was probably the slightly contentious, but I feel as though, so on the men's side last year, can you think of the 2 matches that sort of are the ones that were debatable, if you like?
Well, I guess the Wimbledon final, possibly the Cincinnati final as well. Maybe?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they were the 2 men's ones. Arguments for both. And so therefore, it's not like my choice of putting Wimbledon first was outrageous, but they were both unbelievable encounters. They were both full of jeopardy or doubt or concern or moments of heart in the mouth. Incredible moments where Carlos was up a set and a break but managed to lose that moment. We had match points saved. I'm thinking of Cincinnati here, but also that Wimbledon final with both players playing at their best at the same time on occasions. Also, we had that 25-30 minute game, with about, I don't know, a dozen deuces or more. We had drama as well, Wimbledon. So there were 2 or 3 things other than the obvious, which is it's a Wimbledon final. So if it's neck and neck and it's a tie, you're going to go Wimbledon, right? That was clear. But I also think there was 1 or 2 other things as well. The Cincinnati final was quite close to being a very uneventful match. For a set and a half, he was up a set and a break. You did have you had a few twists and turns in that set and a half, but the commentary that I actually wrote this down and mentioned it when I did the matches of the year sort of review of that particular encounter. I did highlight this, and I said, actually, funny enough, the commentator, I'm going to paraphrase, said, well, this hasn't lived up to expectations. This has been a non-event, and apologies for that, because and a set and a half in, that's how it was. And so that has to count, if you like.
And I think you've got to go for the Wimbledon final. I think really just because of all the narrative behind it as well, right? As well, there was just so much to that final. Djokovic getting dethroned on centre court.
Yeah, first loss in 10 years.
Exactly. Yeah. So I completely understand that.
Who was the last person to beat him on centre court before that?
Last person to beat him on centre court before that, I think it was Sam Querrey, and I think you were there. No? Andy Murray.
Yeah. You know why?
Wimbledon final.
You know why? Why is it not Sam Querrey?
Was that on court 1?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. As I was answering that, I was thinking actually, because you were there, right? I remember you were there with your.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
I just saw a backhand down the line, by the way, from Marozsan that I thought might have landed in, and so did he, because he sort of went,
Yeah. That's why. I think I remember meeting you that evening.
Actually. You did.
Yeah. And you,
Shane and I.
Shane and you, and I remember that because so what was that? Was that a 4th round or quarter final?
I'm gonna say no. It certainly wasn't quarterfinal. I'm gonna say 3rd round because it was on a Saturday. And we were lucky because it got rained over. I think they might have started on centre court, by the way, but I don't think they did. But it got Sasha's held serve, by the way, for 2-1. It was on the Friday. It either got entirely rained off, or at least a lot of the match was rained off until the following day. It must have been although they had a roof on centre, but not on number 1, maybe in 2016.
Yeah.
So it was 2016. So it probably did start and finish on 1 in that respect. And as a result, Shane and I got lucky because we had tickets for number 1 court on the middle Saturday.
Can you remember who else you saw that day, or was it just?
I can't. No. And I think we probably left early so we could catch some of the football because that was during Euro 2016. Right. And can you remember the football match that we watched? Because I do.
I think Germany-Italy.
Yeah. Can you remember what happened?
It went to penalties.
Yeah.
2016. So that was the year Portugal won it. I think Germany won. I think that guy that used to play for West Ham hit the penalty over the bar, right? Was that game?
Really? Yeah, I know. Germany definitely won it because I think who did Germany lose to in the semi-final? Not Portugal.
Portugal beat Wales, didn't they? So, and then France must have beaten Germany.
France beat Germany, did they? Yeah.
I don't remember that, to be honest, but they must have done, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Germany won it, but Germany missed some penalties. And I think it might have been their first penalty shootout misses in a penalty shootout, because I think they've missed 1 or 2 in normal time. I vaguely remember one in either 2010 or 2008 where they missed it in normal time. But I think it was their first penalty shootout misses in 30 odd years or something.
Wow! But just on that, I was on that Djokovic Sam Querrey. I remember Andy Murray was playing on centre court at the exact same time. Okay. And it came up the score that Djokovic had been beaten, and Andy Murray was sort of sitting there, kind of drinking, doing this. He was getting really agitated with his box out of nowhere, and I think it was because they were saying that he'd seen that Djokovic had lost, and now all the attention was on him. Well, now now you've got to win it, kind of thing. So which of course he did, but yeah. By the way, you going to the Euros?
Yeah, I mean, it's in Germany, so I will probably attend a game. I haven't bought any tickets or anything. I know it's sold out, but
I've got a ticket in Berlin for the last 16.
oh, okay. Is that potentially England or not?
No, it's going to be potentially Germany or Spain if one of them comes second in their group, or if both. I'll get to see both, but it could
So
just
it could be
easily
Germany. Hang on a second. Germany and Spain are in the same group?
No, they're opposite groups. So if
Oh, so
Germany
it
and
could be
Spain,
Germany, Spain.
it could be if they both come second. Yeah, in their
Okay.
group.
I mean, obviously,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not super likely, but that would be a heavyweight clash
Yeah.
in
Could just
Berlin as
easily
well.
be, I think, Switzerland against Albania, maybe, or something like that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know. I didn't go to Qatar, and that was the first major tournament that I'd missed since 2000, Holland and
Wow.
Belgium.
I guess it depends what kind of tennis is on at the time as well, right?
Absolutely, yeah. There's a lot of things, and I just haven't. Normally, I would factor it into my schedule, but my interest in international football has majorly diminished in the last 10 years, I would say.
Even more so, I guess, since the St George's Cross gate. Like, I know you're a very stout
Oh,
patriot.
yeah. Oh yeah, that was the final straw for me. Yeah, yeah, I know. But just seeing a sports betting brand, by the way, on the sidelines there, they also sponsor West Ham. But actually, it reminds me of that. Have you seen that TV series with the American guy who comes over and coaches in the Premier League, a fictional show on
Ted Lasso? Yeah, I've seen the first series. Yeah,
I think there's 2 series in all, maybe 3.
it might be 3. Yeah.
I mean, I think there's a good probably 10 episodes per. But I liked it. I know 1 or 2 people have been a bit critical of it, but I quite liked it.
Yeah, it's funny.
It's got some Office-esque moments, which is good, but also you go, well, that's a bit like The Office. There's a bit of predictability about it sometimes. There's a
Yeah,
few twists, but there's 1 or 2 moments where you're like, oh, I can see this one coming.
definitely. By the way, have you watched any more US Office? I've been watching a lot of it.
Oh, I've watched not all of them, but I don't know how many seasons there are exactly, but I think there's about 12 or 13 seasons, maybe a bit less. And I bet I've seen 8 or 9. So yeah, I've seen a lot.
Very good, isn't it? It's very fun.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, it probably took me a few years to get into it. Maybe I had that sort of British mentality of you're messing up, but no, it's different, but also similar. But it makes it. You know, there's 1 or 2 moments, and I quite like the similar moments, but they're more or less in the first 2 seasons, really. Because
Yeah.
once the first 2 seasons are done, much like the UK Office, they've obviously got to come up with new ideas, and occasionally might dip into something, but you've got the characters and everything else built, and it's a bit more of a slow burner, as often American comedies are. But no, I love them both for their own different reasons. I mean, I was actually just thinking about this or answering this the other day. Maybe someone in the live chat asked me this, but I still would just go for that sort of condensed laugh-a-minute British version that was first and pulls at my heartstrings because, of course, I'm sure there's a lot of cultural references in the British one. I mean, Comic Relief, for example, which I think they changed to Halloween in the American version, but they're both amazing. And I must admit, if I'm watching it with an international person, a non-British person, I'm probably going to show them the American because they'll get the American one and a lot of the references, whereas some of the British one, I mean, there are a few. I mean, there's a few jokes in the British one, like when Ricky Gervais is, first of all, he mentions British towns and they're not going to mean anything, even Hull or whatever. But also, there's a funny thing about there's also a few, comedians that get mentioned or famous celebrities that are British, and no one's going to know who they are. So if I'm with an international audience, I will focus on the American version. Yeah,
It's a bit more niche, isn't it? I guess the slightly more niche.
Yeah,
the British one. I saw the episode today of I know we're very off topic here, but the big guy from the American one, I can't remember his name, the quite big guy, and they're basically drug testing, and he asks for they just need a sample of his urine, and he asked for a magazine, as you would if you were kind of if they need a sample of your like semen or something, and he said, no, I still want a magazine. Just for a sample of it.
Oh, I see. That's quite fun. Is that maybe that's not? Maybe I have seen it. Maybe I haven't. I don't know which season that is.
It's second season, I think. It's only the second season.
Okay, so I probably have seen it. I've just seen a horrible volley from Zverev at the net, by the way.
By the way, it's very. I think it's quite. It's. I just checked the weather as well, and I thought so. It's quite windy in Miami. I think I've seen certainly a couple of shots from Marozsan where he's struggled to control it, and it's sort of flown out.
Yeah. Yeah, they've had some funny weather. What about the bees?
Yeah. Did you see Alcaraz the other day sort of doing the same thing again? And it was only one bee.
Yeah, I think he's obviously got a bit of paranoia there. And then the guy who comes out to fix it all, he had his 30 minutes of fame.
Yeah. The beekeeper.
Lance Davis.
I think his reviews kind of like quadrupled, didn't they? His Google reviews.
Oh, that drop shot from Marozsan.
Oh,
wow. I mean, even by Marozsan standards, that was sensational. I mean, some of the other drop shots, which I think he's got about 3 out of 4 or something like that, have worked. Zverev has not been far away. On this one, he just basically saw it and just went, I'm not running after that one.
The disguise was incredible there.
They're actually showing the winner speed, which is silly, 32 miles an hour.
Doesn't matter. By the way, that's probably one of us going full tilt, right?
Oh, that lob is going to land in. Wow.
Yeah.
Marozsan in charge of the point here.
Oh.
I'm still watching it. Oh, yeah, he's gone long there. So it's break point, Marozsan.
Break point. Yeah. I can't quite get it synced up perfectly, but that was a good point. Zverev did really well to stay in the point there. Really good length before the error. This the first break point? I think it is first break point for Marozsan.
Yeah, I think in the match. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So it's the first one in this set as well. I think Zverev had 1 in the set, but. You been to Hungary?
Been to Budapest, yeah.
That's Hungary. That's Hungary. Last time I checked.
Yeah.
There was a fun. That's a good serve there from Zverev to save the break point. There was a funny moment with James Richardson about what did he say? Is it that he called it the Christmas derby? Maybe like Hungary against Turkey or something. Did you hear that one?
Yes, yeah, that was a good one.
Something like that. It wasn't quite that. But...
It was Hungary again. It was Hungary Turkey.
It was Hungary Turkey, but it wasn't like the Christmas derby. I don't think it was, but it was Christmas related. He might have said Christmas derby.
Yeah. I think the international podcasts are almost better because there's sort of less. Everyone's just taking everything a lot less seriously, aren't they?
Yeah, I quite. Oh, the international one. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, the sort of Monday and Thursday. I actually don't mind it. You know, I actually think, I almost enjoy it as much, and it's a good way of keeping up to date with everything that's going on. They don't need to. Zverev's complaining. What's he upset about?
Not sure.
I'm going to turn up. Oh, I think I heard an F word there.
Oh, wow.
But it wasn't at the umpire, if you like. It was like, I can't X serve like this. I think it might be because of the wind.
Okay. What's he saying?
Yep. It's about the wind. So I think he sort of probably waited and maybe he got a time violation, but he's saying, I waited because every time I threw the ball up, it was blowing the ball.
Right. Okay. Yeah, so it's windy. Well, he comes out of a big serve anyway.
Yeah, so what was I going to say about that, the podcast? Yeah, I quite like it during the international break. Yeah, because, when it's Premier League and let's say your team has been involved in arguably the greatest FA Cup tie of all time, biggest rival.
Just to get to the semi-final as well, right? Just to get to the semi-final.
You almost want the whole podcast to be about that. And so when they do it in 10 minutes, because they have to, you're like, and I still enjoy it and still listen to the rest of the podcast, but I'm almost like zoning out for that. Whereas the international one, I kind of have little or no interest in everything. Probably the bit I am kind of from a football point of view, I'm interested in the 3 qualifiers, and learning a little bit about, okay, Ukraine are in a knockout qualifier against Iceland, and Iceland's time has kind of been and gone, if you like, but maybe this is Ukraine's moment, and of course it ends up being that way. You hear about Greece, and they're still boring. like they were in 2004. Good to know. And I think they lost to Georgia, and you hear some stories about Georgian football. So, yeah, I enjoy the international break podcast in that respect.
There's a lot of niche football chat. I think they were talking, weren't they, last week about a match between San Marino and St. Kitts and Nevis or something like that.
Do you listen to their European one? So it's Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, isn't it? Monday, Thursday is Premier League.
not usually. To be honest, I only normally listen to the European one if there's been like a European draw and they're talking about it.
Okay,
Like
I'm the same as you. I probably listen to half a dozen a year of that European one, but I do dip into it sometimes. It just depends on timing, and if I'm just at the gym and it's like, I guess I could listen. If I'm at the gym on a Tuesday and
you listen to any United specific podcast?
Well, seriously, after that result, I did. There's the Athletic one. That's about it. The Athletic one. I honestly, I don't. This is a personal take, and apologies if they're not going to be listening. The journalists they have on there aren't great. There's one guy, Laurie Whitwell, is really good, I would say, but the other two or three, I think, in my opinion, leave a little bit to be desired.
Who does the United Athletic one? Is it Carl Anka?
Carl Anka, Andy Mitten, Laurie Whitwell, and there's a host, and the host is fine, by the way. He's brilliant, and she's great. He does his bit. Host's obviously a different dynamic. He can say little bits and pieces from time to time, but I still listen to it in certain moments, and you might get something. You might get something from it. And just. Yeah.
By the way, I'm just going to cover up some food. I just realised I cooked it a couple of hours ago, so I'm just going to cover it up.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So 15 love here for Marozsan on his serve, 2-3. Big hold that one there from Zverev in the previous game. Just 80 subscribers away from 3,000, so that's something to be excited about. From 3,000? What am I talking about? 7,000. We didn't just lose 4,000 subs, I hope. Backhand slice here from Marozsan. Pretty deep on that one. He's 30 love up here. Now he's on the forehand. Oh, net cord. Drop shot. Lovely, Marozsan. Lovely. That backhand drop shot. Just nuts. 40 love. And he does hold to love. So 3 games all. Over to you, Sasha. Forehand the turn goes long for Marozsan, so 15 love already. Ola Hasida, or Jasida, I should say.
He's very reclamado.
Yeah, complaining a lot. It's Portuguese. It's very similar to Spanish, I think. Reclamar is like a to complain, or I remember in Spain there was a complaints form. That's how I'd remember that word. But yeah, he's complaining a lot, basically.
Mm. Matthew D'Souza saying, commentators saying the shot clock has actually slowed the game down.
I'm not sure who Matthew supports, by the way, but I know that we have a guy in the chat from time to time, Sean Power, and he's an Arsenal fan.
Ah, okay, good man. Must be must be tough for you not having to choose between Liverpool, City, and Arsenal, right? And eventually falling on Arsenal in terms of what would be the most acceptable for you.
Yeah, yeah, but it is an easy choice.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I can't. I don't like Arsenal, but it's not difficult to. That's why I said to you earlier, today or yesterday, I said, like, there's a lot of interest in a lot of matches in the coming weeks, because I am clear, like this coming weekend, and 2 of them are playing each other. I think this coming weekend, I think there's 4 or 5 matches that I'm really interested in, and I want a particular result from all of them. Liverpool play, I want them to lose. City play, I want them to lose. And they happen to be playing Arsenal.
Who are Liverpool playing?
Brighton, maybe.
Okay, maybe, yeah.
Yeah,
I guess, yeah.
Villa and Spurs. I actually, in a way, I guess, because Villa have been in the doldrums for 20 odd years. I don't dislike them, but obviously because of the situation, what's the score with top 4, top 5 at the moment? We still don't know, right?
No, it's looking like top 5 is going to be okay, I think.
Yeah. So if it was us and Villa, if I could choose, us 4th, Villa 5th, I'm kind of annoyed. You'll be pleased to hear this. I'm kind of annoyed with the Spurs narrative this season, because I've watched Spurs a lot. No, not a lot. I've watched Spurs a few times, and they've been poor. But somehow there's this relationship between their Australian coach, Postecoglou, whatever his name is, and the media. And by the way, I don't mind the guy; he's fine, but they just fawn over him for some weird reason.
I agree.
I'm pretty sure I'm putting my biases aside here. United were probably the better team to them away, not at home. Away from home, we lost 2-1, but we had a rough penalty decision. And by the way, we were awful against Wolves a couple of weeks before that, and we got lucky with the penalty decision. I'm not, I'll hold my hands up there. But afterwards, you'd think that Spurs were playing, Barcelona, Brazil football put together, and you'd think that put Klopp and yet I also saw Spurs play Man City earlier this year, and they basically, it was 2-2 or 3-3 at the Etihad. But honestly, that was a smash and grab if ever I've seen one. I mean, they had like 3 chances, and 2 of them were on the break. Man City dominated. Can happen, but it's a freakish result. But you'd have thought that they were playing. They wouldn't even paint it as a Mourinho-esque result. They would paint it as in, like, look, he's reinvented the wheel.
Yeah. I don't understand. I think it's
just about this relationship they have with the manager. He's an native English
FC, isn't it? Mates FC.
Mates FC, yeah, that's what it's about.
Yeah.
We see it with Southgate quite a bit as well.
Well, Gareth Southgate, could potentially be. Could he be the next? Well, I've seen. I don't know if you've seen both. I've seen Gareth Southgate being linked to the United job, and also yesterday I saw Gary O'Neill as well.
No, but Gary O'Neill's for a coaching role.
Oh, okay. Would he leave? Why would he leave Wolves or his manager though to be a coach?
Maybe because there might be a succession possibility there. He might not.
Yeah.
And if Spurs finish 5th, let's say, and maybe they qualify for the Champions League as a result, I don't know. Is that any different to most other years in the last 10?
Not really. I think they've got a lot of credit, didn't they? Did they win their first 4 or 5 games? They had a really good start, didn't they?
Yeah, they had a great start.
That really brought the narrative. They didn't play anybody. Or maybe
no, right. And I didn't get it. Because I saw that start. I thought, okay, decent start, but I don't think it means a lot. Yeah. Sure. They're there at Christmas, and they've got results, good results against, City, Liverpool, United, and Arsenal. Fine, but by Christmas they were sort of 4th and a distant 4th, and they've had some pretty rough results in the new year, and the 2-2 as well that they got at Old Trafford. I thought, there was a lot of criticism from Keane afterwards, and I got that for United and stuff, but It was 2-2. It was probably 50-50. I thought it was the deserved result.
I thought that was a poor game overall, that one. I thought poor quality from what I saw.
Yeah, you would say that, Jeremy. No, but it was what it was. But I say I've seen Spurs a few times against United, but also in other matches as well, and just thought they're getting outplayed here, and they'd pick up the old result. But that was it. Yeah, Ange getting tetchy.
Yeah. Well, they've got. I don't know if you've seen. We've still got to play Tottenham away, and they're going to have a 15-day break. They're going to have Tottenham before they play us. I think we've got maybe about 4 games in that time before playing them. Our running's difficult. Arsenal's running is difficult.
Yeah, it's because you got to go to United as well, right?
United, Spurs, and City. Yeah, and also Villa and Chelsea at home as well.
Oh, Villa and Chelsea away. Villa, Chelsea at home, Brighton away. Wow.
Yeah, it's tough.
No wonder you've been on such a good run recently. United away, City away, Spurs away. Now, City away is obviously super difficult, but I'm almost not thinking about that match because it's also a rival, and it could. But that's probably why there's this. They've got a. You wouldn't take a draw then on Sunday, I guess.
I would take a draw. Yeah.
You would.
I would take a draw. Yeah, I don't think it's. Look, I mean, I think we've got a chance of winning as well. Like, I think we're in a much better place.
If you draw and Liverpool win, they go top, right?
Yeah, but I still think Liverpool have got some more dropped points in them. I do. I'm not so. I just don't want to fall behind Man City at this point. So if we draw, we keep our noses in front of them.
Do you? Okay, you'll be a point ahead of them, yeah.
Point ahead of them, yeah. I know we are relying on Liverpool to drop points, but I think they will. Yeah. And look, we've got a terrible record there at the Etihad. I don't think we can, even now, turn up there and say, I'm not going to take a draw, because our last 2 results there, we've lost 4-1, 5-0, and I'm sure we've lost quite a lot before that as well. I think a draw would be a big step forward and would keep us ahead of City. So I think people would be silly. Okay. Arsenal fans would be quite silly to say they wouldn't take a draw, I think.
Yeah, you make a case. And there's a lot of 60-40s in that run-in, but Arsenal are probably the favourites to win every match, I guess. That'd be even Spurs away, they'd be favourites, United away.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
When is that United away match?
I think it's in April at some point. There's a lot of games in April. I'm not sure when. Maybe towards the end of the month.
This international break. I mean, I guess I get it.
Crazy.
But I remember in tournaments gone by, the qualifiers would be in like October, like the qualifying playoffs,
Because I don't remember. Yeah, it's a new thing now. They make the draws right before the playoffs.
Yeah, right. That's another thing.
Team would be confirmed. Yeah.
Well, but that's because they used to do the draw in, say, December, and the last playoffs would be in the November.
Yeah.
And then this is just such. Then this used to be just full of friendlies. I don't know if you saw the Sky stick to football thing of the day or last week when they were just like Neville was just saying that we were all pulling out left, right, and centre, and he basically said, you'll see it this week that Harry Kane, and obviously he was at Bayern, but he'll be pulling out as we see here, Matthew Wrighton, and Saka. He said Saka won't play the second one, and there'll be deals left, right. So it's just silly.
Yeah.
And then they'll squeeze in a load of matches, as you say, in April, and then they'll arrive at the Euros knackered.
Yeah. Crazy.
Who have you got? You got Bayern in the quarters. I don't really want an English team to win the Champions League, but obviously I need this coefficient thing to go up, and I don't like Bayern really, so you can win that one.
I don't. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's looking like. I don't think you need to cheer us or Man City on that much more. I think it's looking like.
I don't think it's that done yet. I think we still need some of the other tournaments, the Conference and Europa League.
Okay.
I don't think it's that close to being done. I think there might even be a few things like who's the main rival? Is it Italy or Germany?
It's Spain. I think Italy have definitely got it. So
okay, and I think it's between Germany and England then probably, or Germany, the Bundesliga and the Premier League.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, so I guess you would want Arsenal to beat Bayern then.
Yeah, right. I honestly, I think there's a few other permutations, some of the other tournaments too. By the way, 2 game points here for Zverev looking pretty comfortable on serve at the moment, as he'll actually end up being just a game away from winning the match.
Hasn't really looked. It's only just had the one break point, hasn't he, Marozsan?
Yeah. He had a juice in the first set.
Ooh.
He had a juice in the first set, and that's when he had that big opportunity to then get an advantage. And who knows how the match would have panned out if he'd have taken that. But
Do you think if you had to say now, John, do you think Zverev will win a slam?
If you'd have asked me when we met at the French Open in 2022, I would have said yes. Not definitely yes, but confidently yes. And that was, what matches did you and I went to the quarterfinals, didn't we?
That would have been just before we played Nadal then, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I know it was around that time. But also, were you still there on the Friday when Rafa, you didn't go to Rafa Zverev on the Friday, did you?
No, it's just there for the one match.
So I was there for the Rafa Zverev match. But yeah, if you'd have asked me that during that sort of 2 or 3 days when I think Zverev was probably playing the best tennis of his career, I remember tipping him to win the Australian Open that year in the January, and he went out in the 4th round to Shapovalov, and that was before he'd had a top 10 win. But anyway, between sort of the ATP finals and then that French Open, I felt he's getting closer and closer. And of course, the year before he made the semis, lost 5 sets to Tsitsipas, and that was when Tsitsipas was playing his best tennis. Yeah, now I have more definitive. Yeah, I see that. I'll come to that in a second, or we can come to that in a second. It's probably the most difficult one. I think I would probably, with Tsitsipas, for example, more towards no. And with Medvedev winning another one, I'm just slightly on the no side, but it's fine. And I think there's a case to say that, he's still there or thereabouts on a hard court. And yeah, maybe Zverev is the most difficult one because he's got the French Open as well as a possibility, particularly in the absence now of Rafa, arguably forever. I'm going to go no, but it's just because I'm playing the percentages game in a way. And also maybe his nerve, can you imagine, him serving it out? It's just tough.
Yeah. But he had the chance against Team, didn't he? And played the end of that US Open final was very tentative, to say the least.
And we already knew it before then. It happened, but it was like, you could see that coming a mile off. Ghosty, unfortunately, has missed. We've done a lot of football chat, although I do think this is a bit more nuanced. It's just because every now and again, either my book or Man United get mentioned, just sort of semi-randomly. But let's just say there's a coaching fallout or a coaching decision. I'll be like, well, Ferguson.
He's already mentioned the Beckham documentary as well, guys. I think the Beckham documentary was mentioned even before Christmas when I was on here. You were talking about that, John. So,
was I?
Yeah, there's no treatment at all. I don't think, Ghosty, beyond help. I think it's safe to say. Although the talking, I think you've been a bit more distracted of talking tennis, I guess, but the obsession's still there.
Very much so.
By the way, did you see that? So Jamie Carragher rated the greatest ever managers with Thierry Henry for a Sky Sports thing. And who do you think he put as number one?
I'm torn on it because if I didn't know 1 or 2 comments from Jamie in the past, I would never in a million years say this, but I'm going to say Ferguson.
Yeah.
He did put Ferguson at 1, did he?
He put Ferguson at 1. He made the point because of what Ferguson did with Aberdeen.
Did you see that? Did you see that tweener from?
I've just seen it.
Zverev, and then Marozsan tries to do a drop shot. It's the first one he's not even got over the net.
Wow.
Fabian Marozsan's team are laughing at that. Actually, I wonder, if he did actually miss that just because of what happened before.
Maybe he probably.
It's very unlike Zverev to do that.
Yeah.
I wonder. It's 40 love on Marozsan's serve, so maybe there's that to take into it.
but it wasn't even kind of like it was like a defensive sort of. Yeah, it was a very strange shot.
Just quickly to come to this point, Matthew. The thing is, as Marozsan does actually hold in the end anyway. If Zverev maintains his level the next 5 years, then surely he'll get a chance. Yeah. I mean, when he had a chance in Australia, 2 sets to love up on Medi. It's not probably going to happen at Wimbledon, but the other 3 slams, yeah, okay. But there's a lot of other factors that we're ignoring here. Sinner, Carlos, and Medi win the next 20 majors. Well, there's still Novak, by the way. Clay, yes, he's good. Is he quite in the same category as previous Rafa or current Novak or Carlos? You know, we've had Sinner, for example, and you're writing Sinner there, Matthew, but you wouldn't have written a Sinner a year ago. So who knows what player is either on the tour right now or potentially coming to the tour. And I'm thinking of João Fonseca, for example, Holger Rune. And I know a lot of people will be going, oh, but Holger Rune is so inconsistent. Well, Sinner wasn't exactly Mr. Consistent a year ago. And now look where we are. So we're just seeing, whereas that class, you know, that next gen, if you like, the original next gen, we're just seeing everyone come past them. You know, whether that be Carlos, whether that be Yannick now, or others potentially in the future. I don't think Carlos, Sinner, and Medi are winning the next 20 majors. I don't think that. But I also don't know if Zverev gets the chance, as in a final, does he take it? Not sure. Ghosty him mentioning Ted Lasso as well. We've already spoken about Ted Lasso too.
I was just thinking that if he comes up against the, you know, just say for instance the draw really opens up for Zverev and he's in a final against a Casper Ruud or somebody like that.
Well, it opened up for him at the French Open last year. He had a very soft run to the semis and loses to Casper.
Exactly. So he's not the sort of person you'd really put your house on in that sort of scenario, I don't think.
But he is someone who can beat Carlos. He's beaten him in majors at quarterfinals in Australia in the French. So that's a feather in his cap. Oh, and Ghosty here is saying Ted Lasso because it's like, who did Jamie Carragher say was the best manager of all time or whatever? I've seen Jamie very glowing about Ferguson. It was a couple of years ago, so there was a little clue there for me. But I wonder whether he'd be brave enough to come out right with that. Yeah.
Well, he was just sort of asked outright. It was one of those things where he was sort of picking 2 managers against each other. So like it was Capello.
I mean, it's obviously Ferguson and Guardiola. Is the best Premier League manager of all time? Is it all?
No, just general.
Oh, okay. So they would include Ancelotti and
absolutely. So it started off with I think it was Capello and Del Bosque.
Del Bosque's not in the conversation.
I know. That's what he just had a lot of great players, didn't he? Anyway, so he went Del Bosque, and then I think Mourinho as well, and then Mourinho over Wenger, and then Mourinho over Cruyff, I think. And then it was Pep over Mourinho, and then Ferguson over Pep.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I don't. I think Klopp probably has to get a mention in.
Klopp was in there as well. Yeah. Klopp lost out to Pep,
but I don't. It doesn't bother me or fill me with pride either way. With you think there's arguments that it's just different. It's not even. It's not even objective like we can even with tennis stats. You know, as you can build something for one player or another. And obviously it's a bit easier to do so now than it was in the past, but you know what I mean. And football as well, we can talk to people, we can watch videos, we can see what they won. Mind you, even with football, right, you know, we pretty much put Lionel Messi number 1 now because of what he achieved with Argentina. But I did like what one of the guys on the Totally Football show said with Messi, in that if he played for Liechtenstein, right, he may never even have qualified for a World Cup, and yet really he should still be. Of course, he should be the greatest player of all time. You know, so the winning I got that, and I see what I mean. It does give a feather in the cap, and I think it's sort of
yeah. I guess it's when you're comparing him, right, to someone like, say, if you're comparing with Ronaldo, and Ronaldo's got the international tournament, right, and Messi hasn't. Then I guess there's for people who love Ronaldo, right, there's an
argument. You're relying on 10 other players. You're relying on your nationality,
of course. Yeah,
I mean, it does do it anyway, and I think a lot of people were leaning towards Messi anyway. But hi, Ashley, in the chat.
So
Hi,
we've got
Ashley.
Marozsan here serving again to stay in the match.
Yeah, yeah. Zverev seems to have calmed down a little bit after his time violation warning.
Yeah, he was a bit agitated at that point, that's for sure.
Are you covering the Alcaraz Dimitrov match later, John?
I'm not, but someone is, yeah. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that one?
Well, I think it's hard to look beyond Carlos, isn't it? But obviously, Grigor had that win, didn't he, last year? Is that the last time they played? I'm not sure. If it's the
Oh,
last
yeah,
time
when
they
Grigor
played.
beat him in Asia, wasn't it, somewhere?
Yeah, Grigor beat him then. Grigor's playing well, but I think Carlos is at his best, and he seems like he is at his best at the moment. I think Alcaraz
Absolutely.
probably comes through in straights.
Ooh, a failed drop shot from Marozsan. That's 2 now. I'm
A
going to just
couple
off the
now,
top of my
3
head,
in a row.
I'd say about 2 out of 7.
3, it's just come up. Third drop shot error of the match.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I see that.
But
Yeah.
I mean, he's made a lot though, hasn't he?
Yeah, yeah.
Ghosty saying, "What's the best is also now more than ever informed by subjective qualitative factors. Nobody really thinks Margaret Court is the GOAT despite the hard numbers." Yeah.
It's true, but I think there's a lot of factors and she's still very close to it. In fact, I did a show on, not exactly on that, but on tennis statistics a couple of months ago. A guy's got a website called Tennis Abstract, and he factored in, because there's a lot of stuff about stat padding and the fact that she would travel the tour, but a lot of players wouldn't. But she still did incredibly well, and her numbers are incredibly good. But when you factor in, her having, I think slams were like 32 players and this kind of thing, there was less random variables in her road compared to, say, Serena's, for example. And so then 23 slams, 24 slams. If that was the final thing, sure, but there's a million other factors to bear in and everything else. So I understand why Margaret Court is not put at the top of that particular tree.
Yeah. It's just so difficult to compare eras, really, isn't it? It's just a different game. Sports, it's just, even if you watch tennis from 15 years ago, it's just so different compared to now. Oh, Marozsan misses that. We've got juice here. So Zverev's actually 2 points away from the match.
Oh, yeah.
And even like football as well. I was watching some highlights of the 1998 FA Cup final the other day, and I mean the quality compared to now, it is almost like light and day.
Which cup final?
The 98 one, Arsenal Newcastle. Yeah. So the year before United won the treble. It's just such a different sport now. There.
It is. Although what I will say is that there's no evidence. We look at it and we go, oh, okay, X player. You say somebody, let's say, who's a legend in the 50s, a Stanley Matthews or a Pele in the 60s and 70s. You then directly compare them. You go, well, the level of fitness is so much better. It's true, but if you switch generations, Ronaldo will be playing with heavy boots and will be, but I still think Ronaldo will probably be amongst the top players in the world. That's all the evidence we have suggests that, because he's got a natural God-given talent as well as the right mentality, and the other way around too. Lovely backhand return there for Zverev, gets it back to juice.
Absolutely, yeah. It's almost safer to presume that they would be great players, right? Well, that's all the evidence we have, as you say. My throat's gone a bit weird. 1 second.
We've got match point now for Alexander Zverev here.
Oh, we do.
I don't want to go all break point and miss match point. On the Marozsan serve. 1 hour 37.
I'll stay quiet then, in case I might be slightly ahead. I'll stay quiet.
1 hour 37 minutes on the clock. Don't double fault, which is what he did at the end of the first set. Faults on the first one. Hopefully he hasn't got memories of that end of the first set on his mind right now. Second serve does land in, but it's a backhand return, just like he did a couple of points ago. And Alexander Zverev seals his spot in the semi-finals, meaning 3 of the men's semi-finalists in Miami are now confirmed. And they are, of course, Zverev, who will await the winner of Carlos Alcaraz and Grigor Dimitrov, which we'll have live on the channel later on tonight. So make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell and all that other jazz so you can join us for that. The other two, of course, will be Yannick Sinner against... I see John Bon Jovi's clapping as though he's a Zverev fan all of a sudden. I get the impression that Bon Jovi would have just clapped whoever won. Yeah, it did kind of, Matthew, but we've seen that before, haven't we, in tennis?
Probably because we were talking about other stuff, probably as well.
Maybe. But it did come out of nowhere as well, because it was just one of those ones. It was a smash and grab, if you like, Mourinho-esque of tennis, in that it did just come from nowhere. I mean, you do see that when you're constantly when you're 4-5 serving to stay in the match, 5-6 serving to stay in the match, or serving to stay in the set as well. You know, how many times have we seen that before? And he had chances. It's a straight sets loss, but we think about that juice point, and I know I mentioned it a few times before, but he wins that point 95 times out of 100. It's not even 9 out of 10 when he puts it into the tram line and possibly goes on to break serve then, and then they're back on serve, and who knows how that first set goes. Second set as well, he had break points. He was knocking at the door, but he couldn't get the job done, and sort of their unforced errors 10. That's pretty low for over across 2 sets for someone who is a pretty aggressive player, Sasha. Maybe not quite as aggressive as Marozsan, as the winners count also suggests, but Marozsan 23 is nothing bad for someone who plays as aggressive as he did. But probably the drop shots in the end, that stat that looked probably at one point was like 4 out of 5, 5 out of 6, which is pretty good. Then suddenly, 3 in a row or whatever it was. And, that could be the difference, if you like.
That tweener was almost the tweener from Zverev, and then the missed drop shot from Marozsan. That then followed up another drop shot, didn't it? So that was almost a bit of a point where the match
turning point
kind of turned a little bit, maybe. It's always disappointing when you're almost at a tie break, right? And then that happens.
I mean, Marozsan's great 9 months and great tournament for him, and he's certainly put to bed any notions that he can't do it away from clay that I was positing a few months ago.
Now he needs to prove that he can do it at the slams as well, I guess, because he's got a good Masters 1000 record, hasn't he? I'm not sure he's done.
Yeah, right. I think maybe today we'll put him slightly below, but I think he was the best of all time in Masters 1000, win ratio or whatever. But it might have been against top 10 players, actually. But of course, his sample size is very small compared to Rafa's, Novak's, etc. But yeah, anyway, Sasha does progress to the semi-finals. As I say, he'll play Alcaraz against Dimitrov. If he ends up playing Dimitrov, he'll be a warm favourite for that one. But of course, if it's Alcaraz, it then switches over to Carlos. Although the conditions in Miami would make that a much closer affair than Indian Wells. Indian Wells is basically the court that is tailored towards Carlos Alcaraz, possibly even more than any clay court is as well on the planet, just because the gap between him and the rest, it tips the Sinner dynamic. It also tips very heavily the Zverev and Medvedev dynamic in his favor. So Miami being a fast, hard court just narrows that gap, if you like. And yeah, if it is Alcaraz in the semi-final and we do get seeds 1 to 4, I don't know. You could almost build a case for all 4 semi-finalists. You would make Sinner a 60-40 favorite, and you would make Carlos a 60-40 favorite, but there's a case for all 4.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess we're going to see it'll be the 3rd time that Carlos and Zverev have played this year. And we're also going to see a repeat of the Sinner Medvedev Aussie Open final as well. In the semi-final, so that will be interesting. But I thought Marozsan played well, but Zverev played very well actually. And I think probably if Marozsan was going to win today, either Zverev was going to have a day where he was slightly off form, or Marozsan was going to have a day where he was, kind of really his best. And I guess neither kind of happened, and that's what we saw Zverev
absolutely
quite comfortably.
Absolutely. Jamie, it's been wonderful having you on today. It's obviously been a few months since you were here, but yeah, fingers crossed we cross paths again soon, maybe even in person at some point this summer as well. But big thanks for joining me today.
Absolutely, my pleasure. I've enjoyed it, and hopefully, yeah, should be able to get a couple in over the clay season for sure.
Great, a
And
couple
see
of
you soon
matches
in
would be
person.
great. All right, Jamie, big thanks. And to everybody who's tuned in, you know the drill. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.